Hello, everybody. This is Computer Science for Everybody, and this is part two of programming basics. Remember the previous part, you became familiar with variables, naming them, assigning values to them, also a little bit of arithmetics. And today we're going to continue with understanding of the data types, what means data type for each variable, which is very important, and also working with variables and getting data from users and print it back and then present it to our users. So let us start talking about this part. Okay, now let's back to shell. Okay, I'm gonna create a variable again, side length, and I want to put it 10. Okay, so that's what we did in previous part. I'm gonna talk now about data type. Well, data type is in technically, if we want to look at it in a kind of a little bit low level, is the way that computer store a value in the memory. When you pass integer number like 10, or when you pass a fractional number as 10.3, for computers, both of them are two totally different things. The way that computer process integer numbers is way different than the way that computer process fractional numbers or floating point numbers. So that's why in computer science, type is very important. If someone tell you a number like 10, you're going to ask them, this 10 is integer or it's fractional. If fractional or floating point, it means it has 10.0. So this is a very important topic because 10 is different than 10.0. The first 10 is integer, the second 10.0 is floating. But anyway, my point is type talk about the shape of the data in the memory. And we do have multiple different types. When you look at anywhere, like at tables, look at tables. Some columns are streams. You see they have names. For example, let's say, imagine we're looking at a table of products that a company release. One column is the name, and column is a string because text, because you can see the data. If you're in a Google spreadsheet, you know this one. You can convert the type to text, or you can convert the type to numbers or currency or other formats. So that is actually the type. Here in Python, we have many types, but I want to pick up just some of them and make it very simple. The first one, as I said, is integer. So 10 is integer. Another one is a float. Float is when you put fractional numbers, right? And another one, which is very important and useful, is string. String is like text. Another way of thinking of a string is text. For example, let's say I want to write a famous message in computer programming, hello world. When I press enter, I get an error. This is, I don't understand, because for Python, this looks like a command. Python tried to see, do I have any command like hello? I don't know what is the hello, what is a world? Because we didn't do something very important. When you want to create a string message, a string variable or text, you have to use the delimiters, something that separate the text from other things. And here in this case, I'm using double quotation. So if I'm going to write the hello world and I put it inside a double quotation, you see the color change to green. And if I press enter, no error, I can see my value again, hello world. Because in this example, this is a text. We call it a string. Text, a string. And they're very useful because you can print them, you can show them as a message. That's why we need them. And also, you can go for one characters. Characters means like just one letters. Typically, we use single quote, and like I'm going to write H, and we show it by single quote. Single quote or double quote, both can be used for string or characters in Python, so there's no any different in them. But just know the data type. And then there's another very important data type that we're going to work with. It is Boolean. Boolean in result is very simple in general, actually. Boolean has only two values, true or false, or binary value, 0 or 1, or like a light is on or light is off. We use this binary value a lot in our programming. Let us to make decision. If you remember that in diamond in flowchart, one branch was yes, one branch was no. So you can look at the yes branch like true and no like false. Not all the time necessarily like that, but you can think about it in this way. And how is in a Python you're going to write true? It must be started by uppercase T, true, just true, or false. So, it just shows the data type. So true or false. And how we're going to use this stuff, we're going to talk about it. But for now, no need to be worried about it. Just get familiar with these data types. And I want to show you guys something really interesting. There is a function. You get familiar with the functions. Okay. In Python, we call it type. What type does? Type accepts a value and let me know what is the type. When you call a function in Python or any other programming language, you write the name of the functions like type, open parentheses, and then pass parameters like mathematical functions. For example, let's say I pass 10. See what I got here. Forget about the class. Look at this part, int. So this means it's integers. If I put 10.0, I got float. So that's nice, huh? It means type let you know what is the type. What if I write a string like a hello? I got str. Str means a string. And you know what? What do you think about this? If I print this, what I'm going to get it? Think I'm going to get float, or I'm going to get a string. Okay, do not forget that it although looks like a number, but you wrapped it in within single quote or double quote. Okay, so don't get confused. Both of them can be used interchangeable. So again, it's a str. So that is a str. Doesn't matter. Looks like a number, but it's not a number. So it's very important. That's why if you write, for example, 5 divided by 2, you're going to get a kind of error. It says a string, an integer. Are you okay? You know, something like that. But if you forget about that I want to write 2, you're going to get 2.5. So it's very important to understand these differences. Or now let's go for type true. So you're going to get bool or boolean. Perfect. Now we are ready to go for the next step. Next step, which I'm going to focus on that, is actually working with variables. We'll learn many things about variable, but now we're going to work with them. We're going to write something. And my example is to try to see what kind of things that I can do with the variable. By now, you know that one very simple thing the variable does is it store a direct value, a hard code value, like a side length equal by 10. The other thing a variable does can hold the values of another expression. For example, let's say I create a variable area, and then I'll use a side length, and then side length times by side length. Now, area has that value. If I write print area, I'm going to get number 100. That's another way that I can use variables. So a variable can store a value, or a variable can store an expression for you. Okay, that's a very important thing. Also, a variable can store strings. Huh? For example, message is hello world. So that's what I'm doing here. So now if I write print message, I'm going to get hello world. It works perfectly. That's nice. And I can do more things with the strings and stuff, but for now it's enough to do that. So let's say we're going to do now something really cool. We know that at the end of the day, whatever you do, computer program, they should get some data, input data, and apply some process over them and returns back. For example, you give your image to Google, and Google understand the objects in the emails and give you some result out of it. Or for example, you record your voice, you give it to the Google speech recognizers, and then Google process and then give you the text relevant to what you said. So input, process, and the output. So that's very, very important. That's why we have to understand how we can get input data and then process. For example, in this case, I want to write an algorithm or application that calculate the area of a score. But how can I have the input data? One way is what just you learn now. You can just come here and write the number by yourself. This is called hard code. Imagine if you're working in a company that your job is to calculate the area for them, and every time they're going to tell you, you have to ask them, okay, give me the side length and come here and then write all this kind of the calculation by yourself. It's a little bit, of course, tedious. Nobody does that. But anyway, one way of getting the data is hard coding. This putting the numbers directly called hard code. The other way is to get the number from users, which is very common. For example, many applications ask you, okay, please key in the side length. Let us know. So you will get from users, input variable from users, which is a very, very good way to do that. The other way is to read the data from another file or database or over the internet, which I'm not going to talk about it now. It's advanced. So let's say we're going to get value from user, and we want to just calculate the area, and then we want to print it. So that's what I like to do that. So how we're going to do this is very simple. There is a nice function does this for you, input. So input is a function. Again, the name of the function, open parentheses, and then here you're going to pass parameters that function need. Input require the prompt message. So please enter the value, the length. Okay, so when you're going to do that, browser asks you to key in something. So let me change my screen sharing, then you're going to be able to see that one as well. Okay, everyone, I just share my screen another way to show you guys how it will be when you run this. So I'm going to run this code. You see that now there's a prompt message that asks me to do something, to key in the data. So let's say I'm going to key in 10. So that's what's going to happen, please enter. If you run this in your own computers, there's no need pop-up dialog, something like that. You will see in your command prompt, your console, there's says, please enter the length, and then you type, press enter, you're going to get the result. So, but because it's a browser, it works like that. So let's check what we have in a side length. So a side length, seems I got a numbers. I have 10. It's interesting, right? I got 10. I got a 10 from here. But just make sure. Let's test something. Let's check the type of the side length. You see, it's not integer, it's a string. That's how input function does. Input function doesn't care what you are keying is integer or string or whatever. Always returns back a string. Always the value is a string. If you want to get it in a better way, you just write the variable and see it's a string rather than using the print, because print process that one and give you that nice numbers. But you see it's a strings, and if you use it to calculate the area, you're going to get a kind of a warning message. For example, if I'm going to write area equal by side length, multiply this, I'm going to get, there's something is wrong here. I can't do such I can't multiply a string by a string. Not going to work. So somehow you have to convert that string to integer. This is called type conversion, casting or converting one type to the other type. We're going to talk a lot about it, but let me show you how you're going to do it in a fast way. There is another function that what it does, it converts string to integer. There are different ways to do that in Python, but the easy way is just this: int, open parentheses, and I give the value of the input function. So what's going to happen in this case, you key in the numbers, 10 will be given to this int, will be converted back to integer, and side length will be 10. This time 10 is integer. So you just repeat the code, try it, and you will see. You can do all the things in one line, or you can do it also like this. Length is equal by int side length, if this is more clear to you. So this is also possible. After this line, if I run the type of side length, it's integer. And if I write side length, see that it's integer. It's not a string anymore. It's not like that. Now I can easily write area, and I can write print area, and I can get the 100. Fantastic, beautiful. So let's kind of recap to whatever we did, but you can pause the video. You can do one by one. If you have questions, you can send your questions to me. I can answer. But just remember what we did. We started to talk about the data type. We talk about the different data types that we have: integers, string, Boolean, and float numbers. And then from there, we talk about variables that can store a value like a 10, 20, whatever, and also it can store the result of an expression like the area. And then we route an applications to get a value from users by using input function. And then we use int to convert the input, because we saw the return value is a string. I can't use it directly into mathematical or arithmetic expressions. So I convert it to integer by using int function. So input, give you back string value, then int, turn it to integer, and then the rest is the same to when you calculated the area, and then we finally print it. So definitely I suggest you guys to pause after this video, go to the show, practice. You're going to face with some sort of the errors, try to resolve them, search over the internet, or send your questions. I'll try to answer, and you will get better understanding of the whole things relevant to variable. So this was the second part. I hope you enjoyed, and see you soon in the next part of Computer Science for Everyone.